Today, we're going to talk about some of the physical symptoms of having a spiritual awakening. Hello, 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 and welcome to this YouTube channel. My name is Jameelah, and I am a master manifester, and I'm sure you are too because you are consuming content like this. The name of this channel is Holistic Manifesting because I believe in a whole body, whole mind, and whole being experience when it comes to manifesting these amazing lives that we are choosing. What I'm discussing in this video is physical symptoms of a spiritual awakening. Many times in life, we think that when we wake up initially and we start to tap into the idea of who am I as a being? What is my purpose in this life? How can I connect deeper to this experience and all these wonderful things, that it's going to happen that one time. But spiritual awakenings, if you've gotten far along your journey, they happen over and over again, right? I can honestly say I feel like I'm going through a spiritual awakening right now. I feel like right now I've been slowed down and I've been put in a place to where I'm just like, oh, what's next? What's next? But the universe is like saying what's next is not on the plate yet. Like it's when you're in a restaurant and you're trying to order dessert and you haven't even ordered, the meal hasn't shown up and you're still eating your appetizer. It's like, slow down, enjoy that appetizer, right? The main courses will be here shortly. And so when that happens, I think initially sometimes spiritual awakenings can feel like a big crash, like a real negative experience, but it doesn't have to be that way. As we get further along in that, we understand when we feel isolated or we go in hermit mode or we feel disconnected from people around us in our environments and all these sort of things. Like we no longer have this, what is happening sort of thing. We know what's happening. We know what's taking place, right? But the physical symptoms, I feel like they still show up in that process. They still show up when you are experiencing an energetic shift, a major one, or what, we might refer to as a spiritual awakening. So number one is, and these are not in, I don't even know how many I have. So number 1, 2, 3, it doesn't even matter. You feel mentally exhausted. So that's something that I've noticed several times when I've gone through these major energetic shifts or these transitional moments before a quantum leap or something like that, or the spiritual awakening part of it when we first are on the precipice of it. Mentally drained. And I think the mental fatigue comes from when we're trying to figure out what's happening and trying to figure out how to move away from it and move forward and get past it and grow through it and all these sort of things. Because what our minds do not like is to be in limbo. It loves to give answers. Our brains are like little computers. They want a 1 + 1 = 2 type of scenario. And until that happens, it will rerun the same information over and over and over and over again. And because we don't have answers for so many things at any given time when we're having that spiritual awakening, like we just don't have the answers, then it turns into exhausted feeling and mental fatigue because we're wearing ourselves out. We're wearing ourselves out mentally by just constantly thinking about these things. How is this going to get handled? How is this going to get done? What's this person going to do in my life? Where am I going to live next? What am I going to do about this issue? All these things that don't have an answer yet because we're in the middle of those shifts. And so we have to just kind of allow that to run its course and just learn how to relax. Because I always say this, a busy mind and an anxious mind and all that has never gotten us to the solution. It just doesn't. The solution comes when we just let all that go and we just relax and we go, oh, that's when the next step shows up. That's when the, the inspired action ideas pop up in our head, right? Feeling, number 2, if you want to say number 2, feeling physically drained. And that's another big one. Every time I've been going through a spiritual awakening or a major energetic shift, I find myself being really physically fatigued. Big time. And so depending on when this is occurring, I might not be able to get out of bed. Like if it's around the time of, when lady time comes to visit, I won't even be able to get out of bed. Like I've literally had those times where I feel like I'm going through a spiritual awakening, a big old shift. And then that time shows up and I'm like fatigued physically in a way that all I can do is turn over in the bed and turn the other way. And you know what? That's not my style. I'm the kind of person that's like, if my alarm clock goes off at 5:30 and I made a mistake and had it set for something else, I'm like, well, I'm up, may as well get up. That's my mindset. I was up at 5:30 this morning on the walking pad, getting some steps in. And so I already know, like, when I'm feeling like that, just let it be, because it's not going to be for too long. And if my body's screaming for that rest like that, that means that I need it. And what I also feel like that is so much occurring in your physical body. There's so much shifting, because not only do we shift, because okay, when people talk about glow ups and stuff like that happening, like so and so looks like a whole different person, they look like a different person than what they looked like a year or two ago or 3 years ago, and all that, that is a metabolic shift. That is on a cellular level that they are changing and shifting. Sometimes people's features even change, the tone of their skin, the glow in their skin, the way that their body is even shaped, or the way that their body even distributes the weight. All of those things shift because we're being changed from the inside out. And so on a 3D level, it's going to show from the inside out. So when these things are happening, think about the overdrive your body has to be in order to properly utilize that energy to create this new version of you. Not to compare it to something that's sort of cliche, but it's kind of like the chrysalis. It's kind of like the caterpillar to the chrysalis to the butterfly. Same difference. It's like there's no action happening with that entity at that time. Once that caterpillar goes into the chrysalis, everything slows down. Everything comes to a screeching halt, because it takes so much energy to completely shift that being into a new physical representation. So not only spiritually are they shifting, physically they're shifting also too. So that can cause a lot of fatigue. That complete metamorphosis that's happening in your life is the reason why you're becoming fatigued and you're not even sure why. I promise you it is. I promise. Number 3 is you find yourself often when a spiritual awakening happens that you want to be alone. And it's not to say that you're having some type of social anxiety, or you're angry with somebody, or you don't want to be bothered with people. You will want to kind of go into hermit mode and be alone. And the reason why, just because of the first two, is like you're physically drained, you're mentally drained. And so like being around other people, you won't be able to show up as your whole self, right? And the fun part about when you're actually getting into further alignment and you're actually shifting and going through those major energetic shifts, you'll find that people that were supposed to show up and do things or hang out or whatever, they'll cancel on you. They'll find something else to do. They'll not even show up, in your space when you've made plans and all this kind of stuff. It'll change at the drop of a dime, and it won't be because of any of your doing. Because a lot of us, we're just going to soldier on. We're going to try to show up for the lunch. We're going to try to show up for the coffee date, and we're going to try to, mask our mental and physical fatigue and just do the thing. But when we actually get in that space where we prefer being alone, where we're in that hermit mode, where we know that we need that time to rest and recuperate and recalibrate, like big time, a lot of times the universe is going to make sure that you're not even in alignment with the same frequency as the people you're supposed to do things with. And that's not saying anything was good or bad, or they were doing something that was good or bad. It's not even about that. It's just different. 2 different spaces, two different modes, right? So you'll find yourself wanting to be alone and then being okay with being alone. Because sometimes people can want to be alone and people can be spending a lot of time alone, but they're not really okay with it. But when you've shifted enough and you've developed through this life and you've expanded and grown, and you realize that you're in this experience kind of solo to a certain degree, you really just don't mind being alone. Like you enjoy running your little errands and doing all this kind of stuff. Sometimes, like whenever those moments hit hardcore, my daughter's the oldest one always wants to come with me to go do errands or like hang out in the morning and stuff like that. And like, I'll leave at like 8:30 because I know that they don't like to get up that early. Because I literally just want to go by myself. I want to go because they're going to complain about every store I stop at. They're going to complain about the things I'm looking at. They're going to be talking about, we don't need the sponges for the kitchen. Yeah, because you're a child and you don't know what we need for the kitchen. And it's just going to be a whole to-do. And then it's going to be, can we go to the mall, and adding things that I don't want to do. And I'm like, So when I'm going through this like hardcore, I definitely make it my business to be alone because I know that I need that time, and I'm perfectly okay with that. And then I'm sort of introverted anyway, so it's, it works out. Number 4 is you start feeling apathetic about your current life while feeling super open to creating the new life. So a lot of times we'll notice when we're going through the spiritual awakening, we start to feel apathetic about what's happening like in the moment. Like we're like, I don't care about this car. I don't care about this relationship. I don't care about this job. I don't care about this business. I don't care about this career. We get into this mode of feeling very indifferent about what we're at and what we're doing. One of my last major spiritual shifts that I went through, I remember that I was ready to do something new. I was ready to experience something new. And a lot of things were crumbling all around me. Like where I was living was crumbling. Who I was connected to was crumbling. Where I was working and with the work I was doing, all of that was crumbling, and I could care less. When I tell you, I wanted to care. But a large part of me was like, all of this is happening for a reason. And I just can't get caught up into, trying to hold on to things or feel like I desperately need things that I'm really sure are not going to be a part of my next phase. It's not going to be a part of, the next version of who I am, the next chapter. Sometimes you're reading a novel and you have these characters that show up a lot in one chapter and all, but by the end of the chapter, the author decides to give them the exit door. That's sort of how these things are. And so you can tell the main protagonist in the story is starting to feel apathetic towards that other character because they barely mention them, or either when they do mention them, it's sort of like they're gone already. And that's how you may feel with a lot of things. When you're going through that spiritual awakening, you may start speaking about things like it's in the past tense, and it's not even in the past tense yet. You're still in process of doing the things, working at the place and all this sort of stuff. I remember this job that I had that was happening. Every day I talked about it, it would slip up to me so often, was like, oh yeah, this place I used to work at, even when I made videos. And I'm like, wait, girl, you still work there? Like I couldn't even remember to make it a part of my current existence because it felt like the story about it had already been written and it was already pushed out. But at the same time, I wasn't like apathetic about life and feeling sad. I was excited because I was like, there's something else that's coming. There's something that's more in alignment. That's something that's gonna be, my next great adventure in life and all these wonderful things. And I'm super open to it. Like, I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know what I'm going to experience, but I'm open to it. Like, why not? Why not? And that's how you're going to start to feel when you're going through that spiritual awakening. You may find yourself feeling really apathetic towards what you currently see in the 3D. Because like I always say, like I've said before in many other videos, the 3D is the last to know. You know what I mean? It's old news. Whatever you're experiencing in the present moment, most of the time, not all of it, but pieces of it, it's already old news. Like whatever's supposed to be ushered in is already on its way. And sometimes when we really get tapped in and we really get in alignment and we really get excited about life, we can feel those new eras coming up on us. So it's not like we're all like, oh, these things are leaving me and I don't care. I don't care about life in general. It's nothing like that. You care about it, but you know that it's okay to release where you are because what's coming is going to be even more of what you value and what you want to experience. Or either it'll be just something different altogether. But like everything else in life, nothing is meant to stay the same and just be the same forever. It's just not how life works. Another thing is you feel frustration and agitation. Or aggravation. I have both words written there. You feel frustration and aggravation. And most of that is based upon just not having enough answers at that given time. Because of the overwhelming feelings of physical and mental fatigue and all those wonderful things that come along with the spiritual awakening, you also will find yourself feeling aggravated, kind of on edge and frustrated sometime, if that is how you interpret it. I find that you may feel more aggravated and frustrated when you don't really know what's going on, when you don't really know what's occurring. And then sometimes when you do know what's occurring, you'll find yourself in that space. Because I can honestly say, I remember times where I was going through these phases of what's happening next in life or what's going on now and feeling apathetic and the new thing hasn't shown up yet or whatever. And I call it the in-between time. But I knew that a spiritual awakening was happening. So I had to be patient with myself. I would find myself waking up aggravated. Like I would wake up and go, oh, wait, oops. I'm so grateful for this day. I'm so grateful to experience this life, and it's not toxic positivity. It's one of those things for myself. It's that I know better. I know better than start a day in frustration and allow that frustration to carry me through my whole morning and my whole day and just make that my life. It's just not the most positive thing to do. And so I know that feeling of just feeling aggravated, just kind of being on edge. And it's not that you really want to take it out on anybody or like treat people negatively and stuff like that. It's just that you're like, come with it already, universe. But then you know that that's not how it works. And you pull back from that mindset and that energy, because you know you need to relax and let it flow, let things flow into your life. But that's nonetheless, you may still feel that aggravation and frustration. And last but not least, you feel a strong, overwhelming desire to get rid of things. And this may not be a physical symptom, but it can be. So that's why it still made the list. And the reason why is because sometimes certain clothing or certain shoes or certain bed sheets and all this kind of stuff, it just starts to feel like it doesn't fit anymore, like it doesn't fit in your life. One day I was sitting there and I was going to throw on something to wear for the day, and I was about to do a Zoom meeting or something I was going to do, but I had like a ton of blazers in my closet, right? A ton of blazers because of the work I was doing at the time and the space I was living in. A ton of blazers. I could say about 15, many different colors, patterns, all kinds of stuff. But it was an era, right? It was a good 3-year portion of my life. It was a time where that was my normal, get up and go. This is what you put on kind of thing. And I tried to wear like one of the blazers I had like casually to do something. And it really just brought me back to the feeling of that place. And I was just like, oh no, I felt the overwhelming need in that moment to just pack all those things up and stick them in a box. Now I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna keep them. I don't know if I'm going to wear them again. I don't even know. And they're probably going to be given away at some point because that's just how that works. But the feeling of those items in my space was just overwhelming to me physically. I've had the same thing when it comes to like bedroom sheets and setups and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, this is old. This is done. And when I say get rid of things, sometimes it's people too. And you'll feel the same exact way. Like I was at an event recently and somebody showed up who is somebody who's been in my life for a very long time, but I'm so over having to interact with this person and I just don't have to anymore. I don't want to have a conversation. I don't want to talk about anything. I think it's just done, and I'm like, talk to the girls. That's where you talk to. And I wound up, writing that whole thing off. I wrote a whole entire soliloquy of like, this is not malicious, but I'm done with this connection. I apologize if it's not something you want to hear, but I know that this does not go into the next chapter of my life. I'm done with this, right? I facilitated it long enough. And so many times we're like caught up on whether or not something is going to be something that we'll miss later. And I can honestly tell you, if you're clearly and truly going through a spiritual awakening, you're not going to miss it, because whatever new is coming, whatever over the horizon, whatever you're creating in your life, whatever you're making space for is going to be so overwhelmingly fitting and much better for your existence that you won't even think about the things that have passed. Think about how many pieces of clothing you've gotten rid of, and then you see an old picture and you're like, hey, I used to wear that dress all the time. That's me. I used to wear those shoes all the time. I'm like, what happened to that? You went through a shift and you knew it had to go, and you didn't miss it because you didn't miss it, because you don't need to miss it. Because when the right things are in your life at the right time, you don't need to be missing anything that's already passed. Life is always moving, and that's just the way that it is. Anyway, physical symptoms of a spiritual awakening are a major energetic shift. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.